was gonna ask
Yeah.
Josh, what exact point should we start
I,
off
I
at?
guess just
Yeah.
restart on the Ziyech point, just in totality, and
Yeah.
then like, cause we don't know when it cut out, so you can just say like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
like just
Yeah. So
just
I'm
hit
gonna
it
I'm
up.
gonna start
Yeah,
off the
just do
question
the,
again.
yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and Zach, we talked about Ziyech being this out of world player with Eredivisie. Obviously, like we saw in the Champions League, him scoring that one the Champions League at Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. So I was gonna ask like on the contrary, like what do you think are some things like Ziyech needs to like work on when he gets to the Premier League? It might be a smooth transition, it might not, but as he like adjusts to a different league, like what do you think he needs to work on in his game?
Yeah. Yeah, I think in a lot of ways he's kind of like a set in stone player already. I mean, he's 26. I don't know how much he can change, really. I listened to a podcast recently. I don't know which podcast it was, but I don't remember what the name of the podcast is, but they were talking about him being a slim build and like not being very strong and being, maybe being quickly dispossessed in the Premier League, and how he might have to like add a few pounds or whatever. But I think that can work like contradictory because like he is the player who he is because of maybe like his slim build, his agility, his
Yeah,
quickness on
yeah. I
like
don't
on the
think that
first
he's really gonna
couple of
need to
meters.
bulk up. I don't really, yeah. I don't see
Exactly.
that as something that
Exactly.
would really add to his skill set. If anything, like you're saying, it would probably
Yeah.
like take away from it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And I think he's not the stereotypical playmaker, maybe like an Özil, where he's not where he's not pressing or where he's not coming back on defense. I think that's one of his like least talked about skills, and maybe even one of his best skills is the way he presses, the way he uh, like really engages into defensive game plan. I think Ten Hag gave an interview recently about like his qualities as a defensive presence and as like the frustrator of the build-up play of the other team. I think there could be like I think there could be like a bit of a culture shock with Frank Lampard about him just having he's had an awful lot of creative freedom at Ajax and before that at FC Twente and Heerenveen, where he can basically dictate what he wants to do. He shoots an awful lot from distance. He really doesn't have a conscience when it comes to that. So I think maybe that could be like if Frank Lampard maybe could get frustrated by that. I know like when Alexis Sanchez, for example, came to Arsenal at first, like Wenger got really pissed at him for like constantly taking long shots, and the same happened with Xhaka. I remember when he played in the first season. So maybe Frank Lampard says like, "Hey, guy, calm it down a bit," after him taking 20 long shots in the first half. But I don't know. I think he's kind of set as a player. I don't think there's much you can change with him. I think a lot of the qualities he has comes from him being like quite an expressive player and like a creative player that doesn't really have a conscience in what he does. He's very daring. He doesn't really care what people think about him. He doesn't really care
Yeah.
what the coach would say about him doing something. Maybe taking on a few players too many or whatever. So I think he's kind of set as a player.
Yeah, you sort of gotta live with what like
Yeah.
the negatives are. I think with Ziyech, like certainly
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
I think that's the trade-off you get when you have creative players on the ball like that. It's like that in
Yeah.
almost any sport, right? Like the guy with the ball is gonna sometimes just do dumb things, and
Yeah.
sometimes you gotta live with it because it'll be like one of those moments where you're like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" And then he just pings it into the top corner, and all of a
Yeah.
sudden all those problems
Yeah.
basically go away.
I don't
So I
think
think
that's going to be an
that's
issue either, because like I assume that they would have, they know
yeah.
who they're
yeah,
signing.
I don't
So
think that they
yeah,
would have signed him at all if they were. I actually
yeah,
think that the long shot thing, I think he gets maligned for it. If you see like a shot chart, you'll understand
yeah,
like what
yeah,
people's drawbacks are. But I think, especially in the Prem and the style of play that a lot of teams have been going with, you're seeing that the top six concede a lot of chances at the top of the box because they're trying to force worse shots, harder positions. And a
hmm
guy like Ziyech's perfect for that. If you give him that route over the top of a defender, like from the top of the box, I mean, we've seen how many of those left-footed shots, like curling into the top corner, has he hit? Like he can hit those with such force and
yeah,
with such curve that like
a lot.
it leaves the defense shoot long is actually going to be a positive characteristic to his game in the Prem, and I think that it could really, when a defender has to mark you not only for the cross or the pass but also for the shot, outside of where like a normal player would shoot from consistently, I think that adds another dynamicy to your game and another facet that a defender's going to have to think about when they're man marking you. So I don't know. I think that
Yeah.
in the same light that maybe that first couple games Frank's like, dude, what the hell, but I also think that it really, if given maybe a little bit of refinement, I think that it'll only add to his game in general.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are going to be really pissed at him for taking so many shots because
Oh,
he's
100%.
not the best.
Kepa's
He's not the
Kepa,
best long
if he's
shot
still
taker.
on the roster, he's gonna scream at him.
Yeah, yeah, but it's funny because like when he scores, it's most of the time it's like a long shot, but he's definitely not like the best. The best outside of the box shooter you'll ever see because like
Volume,
he's a
baby.
volume shooter. Yeah, he's a volume shooter. Like he's the definition of a volume shooter. But
In this house, we go for volume.
yeah.
Volume over quality, certainly. Um, any other Premier League topics I think we need to hit on? Obviously, the season is winding down. Title was decided months ago, probably even like in
Months ago.
October.
Calm down.
Probably though, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like Liverpool were just absolutely running away with it. And the moment City started dropping games, it was
Yeah, when
You
City
could-
were behind by like 15 points, it was pretty much over.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
that
was
was
like,
in
yeah.
January, so like,
Yeah.
it's almost like half a year.
Yeah, but not
that
October.
we've known that they're gonna win. No,
But,
no,
like
no.
3 games into the season was over. Like,
Oh,
yeah, by Boxing
Maybe.
Day, it was pretty much wrapped up.
Yeah,
yeah,
certainly.
yeah.
But the relegation race, I think, is one that like I didn't expect it to be this close. At like Christmas time, I thought like Watford were certainly going down, and now
I thought
they,
Brighton were fucked for sure.
yeah.
Like
Uh,
beyond any pale, like.
I mean, we all knew Norwich was going down. I feel like that this isn't like one of those like, oh, we told you so, but it's one of those like, even Norwich knew they were going down. So like even
Yeah.
they admitted they're like, hey, like we're just here for like here for a fun time and here to get that
We're just
TV
here to
money.
beat City for some reason.
I mean, I think the first like couple of months or like the first 2 months, like it really looked like Norwich were gonna be a decent team because they
Yeah,
played
Yeah.
really good football,
Pookie
and
was
when Pookie was
scoring.
scoring,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean,
Pookie was
I
the player
don't
of the
think
month
they
the
ever
first
like
month of the Prem.
yeah. Yeah, I don't think they ever like stopped playing the way they did, and I don't think they played much worse than they did in the first half. They just didn't have any goals in them. So
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the fairy tale just basically ended like by
Yeah.
Christmas time. And you're like,
P-
okay,
P- Pookie stopped overscoring his XG.
yeah.
This is not a stats
Yeah,
podcast.
basically.
We don't do stats
And,
here.
like,
This
they
is
just, like-
not for nerds.
They just like by the time the restart started, like they really didn't have anything to play for. Like you talk about like some of those mid-table teams that just like didn't care, like the Southamptons, like the Newcastles, like the Evertons, like Burnleys, like they just,
Every game, Daniel Fark is so sad. He shakes
Yeah,
hands with the
it's-
manager and he like smiles at them. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And then he walks to like his technical area and he just looks angry. He's like, "Fuck, I have to play this game."
yeah. I mean, like if you talk about like everyone talks about like the championship like being like so hard, like well, congrats to Norwich. They basically had like time to plan for the championship since like April, right?
Yeah,
So I think like they're certainly going down. And then like we have an interesting scenario where like Bournemouth can still possibly stay up, despite it looking like
Please
nearly
don't.
statistically.
Send him down.
I mean-
you don't fucking want him.
I mean, it's like a 1-0 win over Everton, and then like a West Ham win over Watford, and then a Villa loss to who? No, it's a Villa loss to West Ham, and then
West Ham.
yeah.
a
West Ham
Watford
played-
lost to Arsenal.
The only reason I know
So-
West Ham play Aston Villa is because FIFA is making us bet on all these games.
Certainly. Like I don't know. I just with these teams, Watford sort of have been in the most disarray. I mean, obviously, I think Villa have been the most least like team in disarray over this past season out of these like three
Yeah.
relegation sides. So like, I was just wondering for both you guys, like, which team like do you think is going down, or, like by the end of like by the when the season ends, basically.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult to guess on relegation football. I think that's always kind of the issue because like a team built just like West Ham, they have a couple of good games in a row, and then Michael Tonio scores a couple of goals, and you're out of the relegation zone. So it's always difficult to guess. I do kind of hope Aston Villa will stay up, and I do
Same.
think I think that's the most likely scenario.
Cavs FC.
think- Yeah, exactly. I think Watford they look terrible. They look terrible against City, and they've looked terrible since the restart. I think Arsenal, like, they don't really have anything to play for, so maybe that kind of changes it, because Arsenal are not going to make Europa League through that, and they might want to focus on the FA Cup final. So maybe they play a different, like a younger team. So I mean, that could be
Yeah, that
a
could be in Villa's
factor.
favor certainly. Like I mean, that's the best way to
Yeah,
Europa League for Arsenal, right? Like into Europe, win the FA
yeah,
Cup. Certainly
I
should
yeah.
be.
I keep getting YouTube recommendations for uh old United players teaching Danny Welbeck how to shield the ball. It was like Roy Keane and then like someone else. I don't remember, but it was like 13-year-old Danny Welbeck. I'm like, you gotta save him, Danny. You gotta save him from relegation, Danny.
Gotta
Come
save
I,
on.
f-
Watford.
I, I felt so bad for the Watford manager because they were 4-0 down, and I just saw him looking over his shoulder like, what the hell am I going to do? I'm going to bring on Danny Welbeck? And then he's like, okay, I'll bring on Danny Welbeck.
Do it. Fuck it.
Yeah, so, I mean, and look at Watford, like firing their manager before arguably their biggest game of
Yeah, it's
the season,
ridiculous.
right? Like it's
Yeah,
like
it's
like that's
that's inexcusable.
like if you go down, like that's sort of like the thing that you point to, right? You're like, okay, this is
I
like
hope they
the
never come
complete.
back.
Yeah,
That was leading to my next question. My next question was like, out of these three teams that are going down, like which, if you had to like, well, hypothetically put money on which team would go like straight back up, like which team would you, or let's say like what team would you see going, like let's say all three teams go down, what team would you bet on saying like, all right, they're the first out of these three to come back up to the Premier League?
Honestly, probably Norwich. I really think
yeah, I agree.
Bournemouth and
Interesting.
Watford like don't have a significant style of play. They don't have a clear identity. They don't really. I think at least Bournemouth are in financial trouble too. I think every
Yeah,
team that goes down this season because of all the losses with Corona, because of everything that's going on, I truly think that they're cursed. I don't think they're
Yeah.
gonna be able to
Mhm.
come back up for a decade plus.
yeah,
Yeah.
So.
The,
yeah,
the
I agree.
I mean,
I
I
think I
think
financial.
think
the best out of here is probably Norwich because they have a clear identity of what they're doing, but arguably they have the least financial of the three anyway. So like,
yeah. I mean, it's difficult to like predict what players they're going to lose. Like, is Norwich going to lose Takan? Well, probably. Are they going to lose that? What's the Argentinian right mid that everybody loves?
Buendia.
Yeah, but are they going to lose Buendia? Yeah, probably. So, but they do have like a couple of nice players, and they do have like an identity, like Josh said.
Yeah,
So
they also didn't
I
spend much like to when they got to the
exactly,
Premier League. They're just like
exactly.
again, it speaks to like this volume of like, hey, we're just happy to be here. They spent on like a
Yeah,
right back, like a backup right back, and like they didn't really help out
yeah,
Daniel Farker in terms of like the style like or like the depth, but they sort of like Josh said, like they do know their identity. They do know.
yeah,
Although they have like the least amount of money, they sort of have the better plan than Watford or Bournemouth. Because
yeah.
like with
And
like I think with Bournemouth, I think it's specifically interesting because what are they going to do with Eddie Howe?
yeah,
I
I
think I
think
was
he's
listening to the
gone.
totally I was listening to this Totally Football show and they're like, like if Bournemouth do go down, like they might keep Eddie Howe, which like makes sense. But if they do stay, like I think that's
Yeah.
when they suggested like maybe like a change could be on the cards because like
Trent scored? What the fuck? Sorry,
yeah,
go on.
certainly.
Yeah.
I think with like Eddie, I think with Eddie Howe, like has he like run his course with Bournemouth? Like obviously he saved them from basically like liquidating right when they
Yeah.
were at that point seduction, brought them all the way, but brought them all the way up, brought them all the way to the Premier League. Like, do you think
Yeah.
like either really? Do you think like he's run his course at Bournemouth? Like if they stay or if they go down?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he's kind of like Mr. Bournemouth in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
Like he is their identity as a club,
yeah,
in a lot of ways. Yeah, I don't like it when clubs keep managers for long because I think after a certain period, like a manager is just going to exude fatigue on their players, and I think that's a line you can see in like a lot of teams, like at Spurs, for example, with Pochettino. I think Pep Guardiola's teams have that a lot, where they're just like, man, could you
Burn out.
please
Yeah.
shut up
I
after
mean
a
the
while?
Bielsa thing too.
Can we
Like
just sit
like,
Yeah.
down?
Oh yeah, exactly. So but I understand why they kept on to him because he for a while looked like the next big English manager, which has kind of died down. I think he on a personal level might have made a mistake that he didn't go to like Arsenal a couple of years ago, or that he didn't like take that step up because
Yeah, he kind
I
of
don't
like
know,
locked
like
himself there, kind of into like a
yeah, yeah,
Mark Hughes kind
yeah,
of thing.
yeah. He's kind of going down with the ship, I think, in a lot of ways because I don't. I don't see like maybe there's a club, of course, like the Premier League is a manager roulette, so like maybe a team says, hey, we want Eddie Howe, but it's not going to be like the most stable club, I imagine. So I think that that's he kind of screwed himself with that. I
Yeah,
think Bournemouth
because
is just going to have a lot of issues. I think they're going to Ake has been their best player for the last 3 years, and
And
he's
he's
going to
gone.
go.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, and I
no
think
question.
someone is going to pick up Wilson because like he's an experienced Premier League striker, and he scores a couple of goals every year. I think they're just going to lose a lot of players, and
yeah,
I
David
don't see.
Brooks, Ryan Fraser, certainly guys that are
Yeah,
definitely
Yeah,
gone
Ryan
too.
yeah,
Fraser
and
said before they were even going to go down, he
Yeah,
wasn't doing contract negotiations, so he's going to go somewhere.
yeah,
I think he's on a free right now too.
yeah,
yeah.
certainly.
He's on
I
a
think
free.
that that's like
Yeah,
also the part of the problem with the virus, right? It's like that guys like have to make these tough decisions with like these clubs that are going down. You're like, are you sure you want to play? Like referencing like Hull City for like a bit, like their captain and vice captain just didn't come back.
Don't you
After
trick
yeah,
us into talking about the championship.
Not yet, not yet, not yet. But like that's just part of the problem, right? We see like at like any level is that like these players are having to choose between like, do I like basically try to help this sinking ship, or do I like and risk like my career, or like or make a better move? So I think like that's like
yeah,
another problem that is had, and like Josh said, like the finances this year, like oh, it's going to be an absolute mess. Like when like they do like that annual review of like all the club's finances, right? And like that, I forgot who posts it, and they post like this list of like the top most financial teams. Like you're gonna look at like a bunch of teams are gonna lose a bunch of revenue.
I don't know about that though because like the coronavirus also affected the other championship clubs that they're going to compete with, and of
Mm-hmm.
course they got the Premier League TV money still, which I think is pretty huge
Well,
compared
I
But I
to.
think
meant like
that
as like
that
a system as a
also,
whole.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I think that
yeah,
just the stress from everyone not getting match day revenue is going to catch up with a lot of clubs. You know?
Hmm.
yeah. I mean, it already has in a lot of
And it sort
ways.
of like gives you like this grim reality of like what if they just like never played, right? Like teams would go like bankrupt. Like some of these teams are already
Yeah,
going bankrupt.
yeah,
Like League One and like League Two teams are like
Yeah,
not.
especially if they had withheld the TV money, like so many clubs would have just gone kaput.
yeah. I mean, that was in Germany.
Yeah,
Schalke
I was
said
gonna.
Schalke said like if we don't get TV money, we're gonna disappear as a club. Right, and Schalke is different because they're not technically a company; they're still like run by the fans, and it's a difficult thing because like they don't have that much revenue. But
It's a
still, like
51-50 split, right? So
yeah,
it's a
yeah,
50,
but
50 split.
yeah, but like they're one of the I think they're one of the only two clubs in Germany that is not that is still a football club and not a company, right? That
Yeah,
so like there's different regulations, more taxes, I think, or whatever. It's a weird thing. But like they said, like if we don't get TV money, we might go on. And Schalke is like
yeah.
one of the biggest clubs in Germany. It's like
They were talking about
top
like
three,
within
top
like the
four.
top two like tiers of German football. I think there's 36 total teams. They would have said 13 teams would have been in financial trouble, like serious
Yeah,
financial trouble. And that's like a
yeah,
huge number when you think about the top two tiers of German football and how much money does come through there.
yeah,
So I think when we talk about like these like relegations, like these relegations probably are going to be the most devastating ones for some clubs moving
yeah.
forward. Like it's going to take some years to
Yeah,
come
in
back.
general, I just don't see a way of like Watford and Bournemouth like making it back up easily. Maybe if Eddie Howe stays for Bournemouth and like they rebuild and he like has there's still like a semblance of continuity into next
Hmm.
season. Like maybe they pull it off in just like sheer competency alone, but I don't know. I think they're gonna have tough, and I think Watford just suck.
Yeah,
I don't think they're
Watford's
good.
just they just yeah, it's completely fallen off the rails with
Yeah,
Watford, and I think when you look at their goal difference too, City slapping them up certainly
yeah,
doesn't
that
help.
really screwed them. Yeah, because
Hmm.
they would not be in the relegation zone if they lost with 1-0. They would be above Aston Villa right now. So that's pretty that was a rough patch.
Yeah, certainly. I don't think there's much else to talk about when it comes to the Premier League. I feel like most of these teams are on mental like vacation mode
Yeah, I
already.
don't
Like
care about anything going on in the Premier League.
you
I
certainly
don't
shouldn't right
even.
now. Yeah, you
Yeah,
know,
I don't
Champions
Yeah,
League, yeah,
watch.
whatever.
Yeah, I don't watch that.
Um, yeah.
It's Genie
It sucks.
Wijnaldum, and it's three of the best.
It sucks
We
losing
made
against
them
Liverpool,
pay.
doesn't it? It really sucks. Um, I think. What else
Liverpool
did
have
I do?
5 shots. They have 4 on target, and they have 3 goals from those four
That's what
shots
you
on
call.
target.
That's what you
hey,
call
I mean
efficiency.
you
Efficiency,
you
right?
have you have a chance to win the FA Cup, so we'll take it.
Yeah. So I mean, trophy. Like
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's more
look
important.
at the rich guy of the pod talking about, oh, we can't win. Why are we
Ooh,
losing? Talking to
yeah,
an Everton and an FC 20 fan, right? So
yeah,
DJ's
exactly.
a Barca fan. Get this guy out of
uh,
here. Another club that can't win anything.
yeah, we're not talking about Barca
Yeah,
right now.
that's just
They're
as rough.
yeah, yeah, right. Like no trophies this year. It's complete
Yeah.
chaos. But I wanted, since we were talking about relegation, I know we were talking about this before we started recording. But we were talking about, but someone yesterday after La Liga ended tweeted out about how the table looked in the Spanish division in 2009, 2010, and said that like 7 of these teams are in the Segunda division. I think 2 of them are in the third division of Spanish football, and one of them is in the fourth division. It's like
Ooh.
just 10 years ago, right? Like half the competition is basically
Yeah.
not in the league anymore. It got me thinking, and thanks shout out to Jens for this smart idea, is that like, let's look at the 2009 2010 Premier League table, right? And like reflect on like what has happened since then.
Was
And
that the
like I have
Derby like 11-point year?
no, it's not actually.
Was it
2009 2010 is
2007-8?
the Ancelotti year where they won. Chelsea won the league over 1 point over United. I think 2009 2010 was
Yeah,
Ancelotti.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's definitely Chelsea over
yeah.
United.
I thought
So
you
I'm just gonna
wholeheartedly said enchilada. I was like, hey,
So I'm
good
just
you,
gonna
man.
read out this like table, and I think we'll just reflect after I read out the table of like, wow, like look at where these teams are now. So yeah, first obviously Chelsea on 86 points. Second is Manchester United 85. Third is Arsenal. Fourth is Tottenham. You have Man City coming in fifth. Sixth you have Aston Villa on 64
Oh, that's
points.
how did they
Seventh
do
and
that?
eighth, yeah, seventh and eighth you have Liverpool and Everton, and then ninth, 10th, and 11th, and 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th are all basically teams that are not in the Premier League anymore. You have Birmingham City at ninth, Blackburn Rovers at 10, Stoke at 11, Fulham at 12th, Sunderland, who are now playing in what League One, 13th,
Yeah, League
Bolton,
One.
not
Yeah.
even a club, like basically weren't even a club for like parts heading into the season. On
Yeah.
14th, you have Wolverhampton at 15th, Wigan Athletic, who are also in administration right now, in 16th, West Ham on 17th. So I guess some things really don't change.
Ah, goddamn
Um,
it. We could have had him. We really could have.
and then you have the bottom three. Burnley 5 points from 17th and 18th. You have Hull City on 30 points as well. And then, would you guys like to guess the last team that finished dead last?
Uh,
Does
I
this
guess
is
that'd
this club
probably
still
be
in the
Portsmouth,
Prem?
right?
Oh, it is. Yes, Jens, it is
Yeah.
Portsmouth. It
Oh
is
yeah.
Portsmouth. So I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
it's almost like, let's see, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, you have basically 9 teams from these Premier League teams, like not even in the first division either. So
Yeah.
I mean, like any like takeaways other than how did in the world did Aston Villa finish sixth? I think it
I
was
just
like
want to
one of
say
those
the other
smart.
day, Jens and I were in party and we were taking a couple of quizzes, and it was you had to do every team that's ever played in the Premier League, and they listed them by how many seasons they were in the Prem. We got four. It was out of 49 teams, we got 42, and we missed 2 current teams. we did, we
We did
missed
get
Wolves
like
and
Oldham Athletic,
Southampton.
so
Yeah, we got
yeah.
Oldham Athletic. We
You
get
lose
so
you
many
win some
just.
and you lose some.
Uh,
I think generally I think it's a bit it's not very surprising that there's a lot of a lot of changes in the Premier League because they have like the 3 automatic relegation spots, which
Hmm.
most in Europe don't have, or at least I guess.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
that third
Germany doesn't have
spot will,
this.
yeah, will most likely
Yeah,
play for the and stay in the upper
I think
flight.
yeah.
that would be
So
interesting. That would be like an interesting way of doing relegation promotion, right? But that also sort of like takes away the allure of the like the playoff final. I think like
yeah,
they would certainly have to change it because then it would just like it wouldn't be even
Well, you
like
would
as
take
close to
like
being
the
fun.
eighth place team or whatever, like the lowest playoff spot in the championship is out, and then you would put like the 18th
The
place
Premier League team
team
in.
from the Prem.
But then that
Yeah,
would just feel like a weird play-in tournament where it's just like, I
yeah.
mean, but
I don't like that
yeah.
because like
or like
there's
you decide you would have like the Premier League team like be like the final boss of like a video game, which like absolutely takes out the
That
allure
would
of.
suck. The Prem team would win like 9 times out of
Yeah,
10.
congratulations,
yeah.
Huddersfield, you've gained promotion.
I
Now
mean
you have to
that's
play.
yeah, that's the system in the Eredivisie because we have one automatic relegation spot and then 2 playoff spots where it's
Yeah, 2 plus spots.
yeah
That must be a lot of parity there, right? Or
yeah it is like so like the first place in the second division obviously gets automatic promotion and then it's the team that finishes second or like yeah second at the end of the season, and you have like period champions. So like you have who did the best in the first period, who did the best in the second period, and who did the best in the third period, for example. And then
Oh, so it's like South
they all
America with like the two
exactly,
different. Okay.
yeah. And then they get thrown into like a tournament, right? And then at the end, like who gets to stay in and who gets who needs to go out. That's it's kind of similar to that.
You know who should do promotion relegation? The MLS, since they're expanding to like 30 teams. Like it's just look, man,
No,
this isn't like the NBA.
they will literally never do that.
Yeah,
Even
there's
though
just
it's
someone like the clubs have way too much power, so they'll just
yeah,
say no, we
it's
don't want to do that.
it just would make it a lot more interesting. I think you would just like
Holy Giroud,
Definitely.
baby, let's go.
you would certainly like certainly drag
Clawing
in
us back, let's go.
me and Jens talking about the promotion, and Josh is just
Yeah,
wondering how
Josh.
Champions League is going
Oh,
to
I'm
you fucking
sorry.
idiots.
I'm sorry for keeping tabs on a game during a soccer podcast. Yeah. Crucify me, guys.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I mean, all this talk of like promotion and relegation has been thinking like, do you guys have any like, I don't know, not really favorite, but like memorable like promotions or like relegations from like all your time watching soccer? Like I have a couple, but like none that like I don't know really. Stand out.
Yeah, I've a couple of HSV ones because
Mhm.
Hamburg, they like had the clock, where it's like, oh, we've never been relegated.
That
Yeah,
was
yeah.
really silly. I don't know why they
Yeah.
did that to themselves.
Yeah, so like
It's like
two
the
seasons in a
anti-city thing,
row.
right?
They had to,
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's literally they had a really big days without accident sign and they had to roll it back to
Oh my
0.
god. Yeah. There's so, it's the day they were relegated was one of the best moments of my life. Not okay. That's maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but that was so funny. Like,
My
just
wife,
to
my
see-
children, and the day that Hamburg
Asphalt
were
going
relegated and had to reset the clock.
I just hate Asphalt. It's a terrible club, but whatever. They had like 2 seasons where they like stayed in through the promotion playoff spot, which is in Germany, and then and then the year after that they got relegated.
Yeah, I mean
And then, of
Hamburg
course-
had that moment where I think it was like in the promotion playoff, like they hit like the last kick of the game, they just like curled in a free kick in the top corner, and
yeah,
just like
that's
sent it in.
Muller. Muller
Yeah.
did that.
Yeah,
That
and then
that was pretty
obviously
sick.
I think one of my favorite promotions was Union Berlin, like coming like to
Yeah.
the Bundesliga. I think that was pretty cool. Like their stadium's in a forest, which I feel like
Yeah,
is one of
that's
those
great.
like those soccer like not nerds but like hipster things. You're like, oh, look at this like cool club. Like I don't know, like it's kind of
Yeah,
cool
they're
like to see
definitely
how.
yeah, they're
And
definitely
then
the hippie club of Berlin.
yeah, certainly. I think Sunderland's like Great Escape from like a couple of years ago was kind of interesting. They like hired like Gus Poyet and they're just like, please help us stay up.
Yeah.
The
Somehow.
Southampton Mark Hughes thing where like he was on 17th and then drew with I can't even remember. I think Swansea.
Swansea, yeah, I think.
Maybe it was
I
I
think
don't remember, but like he barely scraped them and then Southampton just fired him. That was
Yeah.
fun.
I think one of my favorite promotions was like it was like I don't know, I saw this randomly on YouTube. It's like this League Two, like the final
course
day of
you
League
did.
Two, like a couple of years
Of course
ago.
you
It's
did.
like Amiens like scored at like the last moment to go from sixth to second, so they went from like outside of the like the promotion playoffs, so like in a automatic promotion with like the last kick of the game. I think
That's
that was
pretty
one of my
insane.
They kind of
It's-
Brentforded it.
yeah. I mean Brentford are absolutely bottling it right now. But
And and
I
of
just-
course the Watford Leicester City game. With
Oh,
the missed penalty,
unbelievable.
of course. Yeah,
absolutely.
I think it's a bit of a cop out answer, like the easiest one, but yeah, that's one of the most insane football moments I've ever seen.
So he's like, what's your favorite goal ever? Oh, the Sergio Ramos header. Like, yeah, bro, everyone's seen
Yeah.
that one. Yeah, don't worry.
Yeah.
But yeah, like that one, like actually unbelievable because I think it's like one of the most like if you had to ask like a casual soccer fan if they've ever watched like second division English soccer, they'll just tell you that Troy Deeney moment, like as like one of the
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
moments. And it had like so many just like players like Almunia, like a former like Arsenal goalkeeper, Anthony Knockhart, Troy Deeney, right? So.
Yeah,
I swear to
there's
God,
a
I
lot-
thought that game was an FA Cup final. Like semi
No.
final. I thought it was a semi final because I thought they lost the final.
Send them to Wembley. Yeah, did
that
Watford
was
get
pretty
promoted
insane.
that year? I see. The thing is, I never even checked up. I never
No,
even
I
checked up
swear
on
to
that year.
God,
Watford
that
definitely-
game sent them
Watford definitely got
to
promoted.
Wembley.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
did.
the game
The-
sent them to Wembley.
Yeah.
But the playoff finals are played in Wembley. Like that's the
All right, well, I was gonna say my favorite. Wasn't watching football at the time, but it got recommended to me the other day on YouTube because YouTube is a petty bitch Leeds in like '03 or whenever when they went down.
Oh,
Everyone's just crying. The team that won didn't
God.
even care.
I got the
Like,
same one. Yeah, I got the same one.
and
Or
then the
I like the
manager
one.
walks into the tunnel and it says dabs.com over the
Yeah.
tunnel for no reason. How did
Yeah.
I
they
think,
know?
and then when they got set back up, that was chaos too. Like when they came back up from League One.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, that one was crazy actually. That's a really cool one.
I think Ellen Road is going to be a very crazy atmosphere. So, like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
another talking point I want to ask. Like, what do you guys think about like since like we last recorded? Like Leeds have been promoted for the first time in 16 years. Like, what do you like? What are your expectations from Leeds?
My expectations are very high because I have a very high opinion of Bielsa.
Yeah, same.
Like
Yeah.
I don't know much about the team. Like I've seen a couple of games, of course. Like I've
Hmm.
watched here and there, but I don't know much about the championship. I don't know much about like their team. Like I know how they're set up because Bielsa sets his team up like similarly most of the time. And I know a couple of players, but I'm very excited to watch them. I think
Yeah,
Yeah,
certainly.
was
they're going to
Kiko
be one of my
Casilla good?
most team watch.
Anyone know?
Well, I don't know if he's going to even be there
Uh,
next season.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't think he's going to be there. They,
yeah.
I
they
thought
they they like they like their what's his name, the English guy.
As in
They have like a
Marcy.
pretty yeah they have a pretty young goalkeeper I think coming
Yeah,
up.
they
I
have like
think
one. I
they're
think they
gonna
have
stick with.
like they have a goalkeeper on loan other than Casilla, and they have like another keeper, like you said. So I think they're sort of
Yeah.
set. Like I'm a Bielsa truther as well. I love like I think the burnout factor is certainly real,
you
and
and
I think
everyone
he's
else on Twitter, buddy.
yeah, me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the burnout factor is real, but he's also like I don't know, showed a little difference in that like he's beginning to rest guys more. Like, and what I mean more is like now he's resting guys 2 games out of the season rather than
Yeah.
one. um,
Yeah.
Yeah, Bielsa
I
is like a creative Tom Thibodeau.
yeah, I
No,
would.
no,
Wow,
no,
actually,
no, no, no,
oh
VJ immediately conceded the point. Jens is like,
yeah,
no, please,
Jens,
please,
no.
no.
Jens is thinking about it. He's gonna come around after the podcast and be like, "Oh,
Okay,
Josh is
okay.
right."
Well, I'll think about it. But yeah, but
um,
like about the burnout factor, I think that's why Leeds was such a perfect place for him. Because most of the time when he took over teams, like he took over team like established first division teams with like
yeah,
egos and like older players or whatever. And not that Leeds doesn't have older players, but like if like someone with that stature comes into Leeds United, right, he can just say, hey, this is what we're gonna do, and you're gonna adjust. And if you
because
don't
they're
want to
so desperate to
adjust,
come back.
get
Yeah,
out.
so
Exactly. Like they gave him the
Yeah,
keys, and then he's just gonna be like, yeah, let's do it. So if you have like a squad of players that like, after a while, the squad of players are either gonna be bought in or they're gonna be out. Like Augustine, for example, is now out because
mhm.
he didn't buy into the system, right? So like, I think that's why it leads to so perfect for that case, and why he didn't succeed at Lazio and Lille and Marseille, for example. Right?
Yeah, I
I
just
think that's
wonder where the goals are gonna come from. With
yeah.
Leeds, because Patrick Bamford, their
They're
striker,
gonna sign
like
Cavani.
yeah,
yo,
well,
Cavani.
I can't
Yeah.
believe Zlatan said no. That's so crazy. Fucking dork.
Yeah.
yeah, but like I think that's the number one. Like obviously, like another thing is like how is Bielsa's like intense pressing style going to work against better teams? Because like this isn't the
Hmm.
championship anymore, right? Like you're not playing like Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah.
It's like going to be
You
like
will be
City
playing
and Pep.
Sheffield United though.
Yes, you will be playing Sheffield United. That's true. I do think like Leeds like it's like a mid-table finish, just like a mid-table finish, and
Yeah. Yeah.
just don't like. The worst thing would be like if Leeds start out really hot, right? And everyone's like, "Oh my God, Bielsa, it's working," and also they just tailspin.
Dude,
Yeah.
what if they do
I
exactly what Norwich did, like beat City and then just
exactly.
lose like every other game?
I mean,
Yeah, I
that's
kind of
that's
hope it does as like a slow start, and then everybody like, oh,
yeah,
they're not the Bielsa team, and then they don't watch it, and then after a while they really get into a group of
It's
things.
the,
yeah.
this team will never be a Bielsa team, and then spitting out the cereal in like 3 weeks.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
I think it'll suit them more, right? Because they play less games in the Premier League now. I really don't think they care
mhm.
about like the cups. I mean, yeah, now you can care about the cups, but like less games now, certainly. Just surviving, I think, shouldn't be a priority for Leeds. Like finishing mid-table. Like I certainly see they can finish above
Mhm.
teams. Like they can finish above West Ham. Like they can finish above Brighton. Like
Low bar.
there's no. I mean, obviously low bar, but like when you're coming into
Yeah.
the Premier League, you obviously have to
Yeah,
change
I think the quality
expectations.
in the Premier League is just not that high, so I don't think they're gonna have like that
Yeah, I
much
think it's kind of a
that much
lull
problem
right now, to be
adjusting.
honest.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I think
Chelsea are the fifth place team right now. Like,
Exactly. Like with
fourth,
all the talks
whatever.
about like Liverpool and Manchester City like being one of the best teams of all time and all of that, I think the quality of the Premier League has
Yeah, it's
significantly gone
extremely
down.
top heavy, extremely top
Hmm.
heavy.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't think like it depends on like what they're spending, right? Like you said, like where's
Yeah,
their goals going to come from? Like if they sign like Cavani's probably not going to go there, but like if they sign somebody, if they sign like Callum Wilson from Bournemouth, for example, right? Like if
yeah.
somebody who can get you like 12 goals a season, that
That'd be really
that
funny if
would
they keep like championship teams just keep handing off Callum Wilson to like whoever goes down and then
yeah
comes up. Like
yeah
you just
he becomes
inherit Callum Wilson
Sort of like the
and like
Glenn
Danny
Murray. It's like
Welbeck.
exactly because
it's like
yeah,
Glenn
but I
Murray.
think yeah, I think it's very much depends on like how are they going to back them? Can they back him? Right, like
Yeah.
that those questions. But I definitely think he can avoid
Yeah, I
relegation.
mean, I love Bielsa. I think like in terms of like the Premier League becoming like a more like I mean, obviously like with like other leagues, you see like sometimes like just to play on the pitch is not what is the allure of the league. I think that's the same thing with Bielsa, right? He's sort of like this crazy
Hmm.
coach that like people just love to see what he's going to do next. And I
Love
mean,
to be
those are my two big
nicknamed El Loco. Like not
yeah,
even
El Loco.
anything like out of the box. They call him the crazy.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm just like excited to see like the type of preparation he does against like a game against Brighton. Like like there were like stories about how like Bielsa like spent his time in quarantine watching like a Leeds United like 20-year-old midfielder like 9 hours of his game film, just like seeing if he's ready for the
Yeah,
first team. Like after like what
yeah,
hour do you think he's ready? Like I would say like 3, but like 9, sure,
hmm, yeah,
I guess.
yeah,
And he would give like 8-page reports on like a backup goalkeeper, like a guy who's not
yeah,
even going to play. So like that
yeah.
type of like tedious like tenacity, I think like people are gonna catch on more of it. But like same thing as like my two biggest problems are A, where the goal is gonna come from. B, like are you sure your teams are just not gonna pass right through your pressing system?
Hmm.
Well, I
Especially
don't
teams
Yeah,
with
think
like
it's
better players on the
easy
ball.
to pass through a press. Like I think that if they dedicate enough, like if they bring in like a midfielder like of Premier League quality, I think that they can rotate enough guys to keep like the intensity level up, and I think that that's like their biggest thing. I think when Leeds look strong, that they can play against
yeah,
anyone. I think that they have a puncher's
Yeah,
chance if they
certainly. And
have
when I talk
energy.
about
hmm,
like teams, I don't mean like the teams that are like at the bottom of the table. I think that's what like in my mind, I'm sort of like already putting Leeds United mentally in like 10th, like when they start. Like so, I'm like okay, they're like firmly like mid-table. Like
I mean, if
teams like
Sheffield are like
above them.
seventh this year, that's really not a bad
Okay,
guess.
yeah, I was gonna say like okay, so like let's say like Leeds play like a Leicester, right? Like Leicester have like decent players on the ball, right? So like will they be able to like pass through that press? Like obviously like against like West Ham's, right? And even like Burnley's, like that press will get to them, right? But like
to me
against
it's
like the better like European teams, like how will they
yeah,
fare?
to me it's very similar to like Atalanta Bergamo, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
They press so high up the field, right, and they play so high up the field that it's difficult to just pass out of it, right? Like you
yeah,
cannot just pass out of it because even if you pass out of it, so many players have to track back because like Hans Atebur and Gozens are just play basically at the touchline, figure speaking, like at your baseline. So like you cannot just pass out of it because you have to reset, you have to like catch your breath, and you have to wait for your players to move up the field. So I think there's in a lot of ways it's difficult to pass out of it. I
yeah.
don't think that's yeah.
And to your point about Atlanta, I just love the way that they play. It's like so unique to like just what
God damn it!
everyone's.
Don't get
You
us
got me talking about.
started.
Because like think about it, like no other team like tries to like make those overloads on like the wings like that as much as they do, right? Like
Yeah,
Pablo Gomez is like
yeah,
their most central player, and he's like the
yeah,
only guy in midfield.
yeah.
So I mean, I just hope
I
that
think
they're able to like keep up this for like at least another season.
yeah. Yeah, I think the talk about Atalanta. I think sometimes like it's borderline disrespectful how people talk about them because every time it's brought up, it's like hey, they're so fun to watch. Which is like yes, they are fun to watch, but they're
Hmm.
also insanely good, right? I
Yeah.
think
Hmm.
the way they're set up is incredible. Like the players, every single player is played out of their mind for the last 2 or 3 years. Like, they have genuine quality in their team. I think it's not just like a fairy tale story. I think it's like a real project and a real like a
Yeah, and they have like
a
one of the
real
best
team.
academies like in the world. I think like they're ranked pretty
Yeah, they're,
highly.
they're yeah they're very highly ranked. Yeah,
And like
it's
they
just the issue that they lose so many academy products to
yeah, like they
Milan.
lost Kessie, they lost
Yeah,
the guy to Juventus. Was it Kuselevsky? Don't.
Kozaleski. Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see how like, and also their core is getting older. So at least like one more
yeah,
year. Like Atalanta could easily like this sounds like
yeah.
this sounded so far fetched like at the start of the season, but like Atalanta could win the Champions League.
Oh yeah, Yeah, I think that's maybe a bit too much, but
Buddy.
they have a chance. They have a
It's a
chance.
chance. There's a
Yeah,
chance. I mean, if not,
yeah.
if you look at it's a one round knockout, right? Like now it's not two legs
Hmm.
anymore; it's one. So I think we'll certainly see
If
more
you look across
upsets.
Europe, like since like most of the clubs restarted, like most of the leagues restart, they've been like they've scored the most goals and they've gotten almost the most points, right? Like
Hmm.
they've been insanely good. Like if
And
they
yeah,
didn't
and
start so
defensively
poorly, if they
good
did,
too.
if
Yeah.
they didn't, yeah, if they didn't start so poorly as they did this year, then I think they could have even won the
Yeah,
league.
and like Josh said,
So
like defensively, it's fantastic. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Any other thoughts? I feel like we've touched on a lot. We've visited the past 10 years ago. We talked about Atlanta, the championship. We sort of hit all my points.
I didn't talk about the FA Cup.
FA
If,
Cup.
yeah.
I think, Josh, any thoughts on the FA Cup other than Chelsea is doing what they have to do?
There's a really big anime sweat tear going down my face because I know Jens is gonna roast me. No,
I'm not
I'm
gonna rush you.
excited. I'm excited to play Arsenal in back-to-back finals. Just it's gonna be great.
Yeah, I mean, I think Arsenal played a lot better than they did against Poole, and it's sort of like reassuring that the Arteta ball works. But like also Arteta like probably came out as the biggest winner out of all this, like other than
Yeah.
like more than Arsenal. Like remember he
Arteta
was like
winning games and then being like, oh, "My board is full of bums."
yeah, I
It's
mean
amazing. It's
Actually,
incredible. It's
incredible. He literally beat like
yeah.
arguably like the most like economically sound team in the Prem, and then
Oh
got
my
on
god.
the post game and was like, "Bro, we broke as hell."
I cannot imagine a more like suited Pep Guardiola prodigy. Like
yeah, he
truly.
basically
it's
like,
so
beat
Guardiola.
the two best teams in the Prem, right? And then he
Yeah.
somehow like comes out in that press conference like we need to spend more, and then like even if, when he wins, he feels even
Yeah,
more
back to
vindicated.
back.
Yeah,
He
it's
beat the
amazing.
league leaders and Man City, both in relevant competitions, and he was like,
Yeah.
we're poor. We're gonna need to sign some guys."
It's so I love him.
He somehow like hit the lottery because like now because people aren't even talking about like oh like people are just talking about like yeah oh look at City, but like when they're talking about Arsenal, it's more of like wow.
People
Can you imagine
forget
what
Mikel
Arsenal look like
Arteta
with
was a walking bucket.
people are like yeah well like can you imagine what Arsenal would do with an even better squad? So like it's sort of like Arteta's points are like out there now, and now it's up to Arsenal to like like maybe
Yeah.
spend the cash, I guess, depending on how Stan Kroenke views the
I
Nuggets.
don't know. They don't really
Moving
have any
forward.
cash to speak of. So.
Yeah.
This
Stan Kroenke
smacks
has a
of
lot of
a.
cash, but like if he's gonna spend it or not, that's the
Yeah, he's
question.
probably gonna bring in Matthew Cash. So
Yeah.
that guy's
Honestly,
name will never get
good
old.
fullback though.
Yeah.
Good fullback though. Like
Pound
if
for pound.
Bellerin like is gonna be injured most of the time, like
No, they already
you know,
have. They already got Cedric though. So
I don't want to hate on Vegan King, Bellerin, but I mean, maybe.
no, this.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much to talk
the-
about with these Arsenal
the-
squad. I mean, with the United Chelsea game, I feel like United just didn't show up.
Yeah.
Simple as
Yeah,
that.
that was just funny. That was just a funny ass game.
That
I have
was-
the
yeah,
Harry
that was very
Maguire
funny.
own goal playing and replaying in my head whenever I wake up. It's great.
Yeah, this
Scams
United
was very upset. Scams couldn't even joke with me after the first joke. He was like, "You have lost 3 times to United this season." I'm like, "Buddy, no trophies for you, okay? Okay, no trophies."
I mean, like, there's
Yeah,
nothing, but like,
it's a difficult game to predict because like I think like we know both starting 11s like roughly. Like we kind of know what's gonna happen, right? I think it's gonna be like a 3-4-3 against a 3-4-3, and they're just gonna play their best team, and like it's kind of
We'll see what happens.
difficult to like predict, yeah.
yeah, certainly. I think
On the
I think last-
Arteta thing though about like funding, I do think there's like I don't want to talk about too much, but like there is a team there I think at Arsenal.
100%.
If
Yeah,
they add a few
I think so,
pieces, I think there like there is like a skeleton of a like maybe not like a I don't think they have the capital to like compete with City and Liverpool and even Chelsea for the league, but I do think there could be like a team there that could maybe like win a Europa League and win an FA Cup.
Yeah, there's
100%.
certainly, like,
I
not
think that
get
they're
top
kind
four.
of like Arteta begging for money to the press. Is
Yeah,
kind of like the
it
opposite
shows
of
you.
the Poch situation. Like Poch is like
Yeah.
asking for players like at the end of his tenure and being like, "What the hell? Like we just need something."
Hello,
you
can
know?
I please get player?
Okay, maybe one player, maybe. Whereas like Arteta's like, all right, we're on the beginning of the curve. If you give us money, like the curve will go up. Otherwise, like we're just
Yeah.
gonna stagnate. Like.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah,
I don't
I
know
think
if
he's
the
100%
Arsenal
right.
if the Arsenal board backs him, like you could get what is essentially like the excitement that people like from a Poch side, but with no money. But then you add money to it,
Hmm.
and it's like, oh, like suddenly that's an exciting team, like Jens said. Definitely,
Yeah, yeah, certainly.
they could ramp up to get an FA Cup in a couple years. Maybe next
Last
year,
question, I
boys.
think, for the pod. Do you think Aubameyang stays? Like, like,
Uh,
let's say,
I
I don't
thought
know.
that today they it was a report that they offered him £250,000 a week, which is
I
quite a
don't know
lot.
if he
I don't know.
stays, like, because like this is gonna be a
Yeah.
process, right? Like even like we're gonna talk like
Hmm.
a year from now. Like Arsenal's still gonna be like not like their best side unless they like spend and absolutely
Yeah.
hit on all their transfers. So like I
I don't
think
know. He
like
seems to enjoy it though.
yeah, he does. I
Maybe
think that's
like
and
Get rid of Laka,
like you gotta
dude.
take in. Yeah, but you gotta like think about like you're in London. You're like in a very big club with like
You have
good
a
training
gold
facilities.
Lamborghini.
Gold Lamborghini, like could he do much better anywhere else? Like two hundred fifty
yes,
thousand like pounds a week. Like can he get that anywhere else? Like I don't
yeah,
know.
but I
Like
think it's for him.
Inter
It's
won't offer that, for
yeah,
example,
I think it's
right?
like for him, it's
So,
like, does he want to play in the Champions League, right? Which is like one of
hmm
those like, oh no, Champions League, like that's like an actual thing for players, right? Like
I
trying
don't
to
even
win
think he
yeah,
does. I truly
win
don't
these
even know
trophies.
if he want. I mean, like, what is he? 30, 31? I'm pretty sure he just kind of like Jens said. I think he just wants to chill in London.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
it's like
yeah,
a
yeah.
that's
I
the
don't know
question.
choice.
if you
Like,
have kids. Like I don't know if you have kids, but like if he has kids, which could be the case. Like
I believe he does.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, he could be like, hey, we're all settled here.
yeah,
I'm
I
gonna
was gonna
earn
say
a
like
lot of
that's like
money.
the central question. Like, do you
Yeah.
want to like, is he like fine with where his career is now? Does he want to play
Hmm.
Champions League, or is he fine like being the face of Arsenal, right? Like he's basically like
Yeah.
everyone. No Arsenal fan like slates on Aubameyang, right? Because they're always like, oh, like he
Yeah.
needs more
I think they
help.
should do more,
He's the
but
captain.
yeah.
Like, I mean, they had to give him
God,
captaincy because they stripped it from Xhaka, and they're like, who's the only guy that plays every game? Aubameyang. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
I don't
mean,
know.
like,
To me, I think he's gonna stay because I just don't see anyone who's gonna offer the same amount of money that he's like
yeah,
maybe
he's
before the
definitely
Corona
no
break
one's gonna
that
match the
Barca
wages. Like no way that
exactly
anyone's gonna match the
yeah
wages. If
like
Barca
Inter
pick him up,
cannot
that is
pay
the
that
saddest thing I've ever heard.
yeah
Because
like
they'll
oh
have to
we
pay
can't
like
get
60
Martinez
for him. Yeah.
yeah we can't get Martinez so like we'll get this 31-year-old striker. I mean it sounds like Barcelona, but
yeah.
sorry Vijay.
Don't apologize. Yeah. Say it in a meaner tone, actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think this certainly. What do you think, Josh? Wraps up another great episode. We talked about a lot. Good
Yeah,
conversation.
we covered a lot. It was great.
Yeah.
Thank you
And a
again
more
to
efficient
Jens.
time than we
Yeah.
did.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
Enjoyed
thank
it.
you so much for Jens for coming on. Certainly, he'll be back for more episodes, I'm sure.
Yeah, he's our new co-host.
Jens, do you have anything to plug?
God, I don't know. Like maybe follow me on Twitter, maybe not. I don't think you should do that actually. Um, no, I don't really have anything to plug.
uh, and one quick fire question:
No, wait,
how
wait.
far are the Sixers going
Read
in the
Marks.
playoffs?
That's all he's gonna plug. Just read
Yeah,
Marks.
oh yeah. Check out my boy Marks. He's an up and coming theorist.
Plug the
You can find his
Patreon.